Behind the scenes trickery.
Little green room hang.
Yeah. Still got like what, 13 minutes before we gotta go. We just hit live. This is what happens before a show. If I'm not running around trying to get technology to work.
Did True's pod go okay?
Yeah, it was fun. Interesting,
he says.
And I bring all my podcast skills to the table. Pretty sure she looked better than the host.
That's good.
That's right.
Now she'll never be invited back.
Yeah, little upstager.
Yeah. Is this where you want to hear about my UPS saga?
Yeah, let's do it. If you catch the green room chat before we actually, we're live right now. We know it, by the way, so don't freak out. Yeah, but in 12 minutes we're gonna pretend like we're starting up so that we can at least clip this. But we were bored. We decided to go live. We're usually late, so at 12 minutes early, we're making up for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 shows that are 4 minutes late. So there you go. 3 shows. That's what the math says. All right, go ahead.
Well, so I hadn't heard anything from UPS or AFA, which is CGA, is the AFA is a branch of CGA, Collector Grading Authority.
Illuminati.
Exactly. Haven't heard anything from them from either side in quite a while, and so I reached out to AFA, Marcy to be specific, who's lovely, and said, "Hey, I haven't heard anything in quite a while, and I'm just wondering if you had, or if UPS had contacted you or anything like that." And she said, "No, we hadn't." So I reached out, and UPS had closed the file, basically. Sure. And so I opened it back up for them and said, "Hey, this hasn't been resolved yet." And so so I spent some time today on the phone with UPS, and I knew what they were going to say. They were going to say, "Well, we didn't get a hold of AFA to tell us, to confirm the contents of the package." And it was a classic case of everybody pointing at somebody different.
Sure.
As to why nothing has happened. And so I said, "Well, I have been in contact this week with Marcy at AFA, and they are waiting to hear from you guys." And it's like, "Nope, but we can't do anything until we hear from them." I'm like, "Okay, well, they said that they've reached out and they haven't heard a response back from you. And I can understand why you would want this to go away, because it's looking like you'd have to pay me out a nice chunk of money because of the package that you guys lost in Portland, Oregon on November, blah, 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 and I have all my information."
It's been 3 months.
Yeah, going on 4 now. And so, that's where it left. And so what I had found out today, or this last week, was that UPS had closed the claim due to insufficient information, allegedly, and
lack of activity.
Yeah, and so I'm thankful that Marcy at AFA reached out to me. She said, "Hey, just want you to know, what's going on, and it's not on our end." And she reached out to me. I didn't have to, so I appreciate that. And it's not over, and it probably won't be for a while still, but
what a pain in the ass.
That's where we're at.
Well, stay diligent. I think that's the principle of anything, is like anyone's willing to just sweep it under the carpet if you're not, just diligent. If you just don't continue to I've got a same scenario. It's not as complex as yours, but you know what happened with like that trailer tire, and then how they didn't put it on, and I probably should have died on the way home, but it made it home, and the guy I'm dealing with is just like, yeah, no problem. The manager, yeah, we screwed up. We'll take care of it. Just send me the information. And so like he's with me all the way until I send him the information, and it's just crickets. So I've tried reaching out to him like 4 or 5 times. Hey, if you're just joining us, we are in the green room right now. We decided to hit go live because Andy and I were just talking. We're going to go actual live at 7, but if you want to join into where Andy and I complain about our real life problems, there you go. So anyway, crickets. I can't get a hold of them. They're not responding to my emails, which they had previously responded to. So I know that it's a correct email.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
The world likes to hide behind the fact that most people give up. That's why they made gift cards and coupons and mail-in rebates and all that stuff.
Yeah, because who wants to spend postage on?
Now, if you want to hear a happy story, if you want to hear about a company that does it right, I was purging a bunch of old files, like full of old bills, and I was kind of just going through them one by one and throwing them in a pile of like, shred. And I come across a Costco, the Costco rebate certificates they send you.
Yeah.
You're paying $100 a year to be a Costco member,
right,
or a Sam's Club member if you're in different parts of the country. And then they send you this certificate every year. And usually it covers the cost of what you pay for your membership. So it's kind of a wash.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going through these files and I find a certificate for like $85. And it is from 2011. We're talking 12 years old. So day before yesterday, I run down to Costco because I got some current certificates. And by the way, look identical. So I'm like, I don't see an expiration date. I mean, here we go. So I go into the member desk because I don't want to look like an idiot. And and to be honest, if anyone had told me like, come on, man, it's 2011, I'd be like, yeah, I know. So you
didn't know it was 2011?
No, it says issued 2011, but it doesn't say any expiration date. So gotcha. I'm telling a good story here, so you know what the answer is going to be. So I go to the guy and I'm like, this is from 2011. It's $80. I'm going to do some shopping. He's like, no, it's good. It's good. I'm like, you sure? He's like, yeah, it's good. So I walk up after that's, before I purchase anything. So I fill the card up with, I had like $200 worth of those certificates. That was kind of my motivation to go down there. I'm like, I'm just going to use these. I never use them. Obviously, I'll store one from 2011. And so I walk up to the counter. I'm still a little apprehensive. I hand it to the guy and he's like, 2011. He's like, that's close to my record. I had a gal that brought one that was 15 years old, but you're rolling in with a 13 or 12-year-old one. And I was like, yeah, it's not bad. So boom, went through. It was great. So that's good awesome. Company, Costco, honoring. And they got a ledger sheet, right? They got this ledger sheet that's like, here's all the certificates we've never cashed in. And I visibly imagined like a red line going through my certificate from 2011. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Interest free.
That's
would
awesome.
Been worth like $90 if I had interest on it.
Yeah. In fact, Dave,
so good company, Costco, Sam's Club, whatever. Patron that company. They support their certificates indefinitely, apparently.
That's awesome. Dave and I had the same response. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Is it time? No, we still got.
No, we still got 4 minutes. Hey, thanks for if you just joined us. Andy and I are in the green room. We're just talking for the show. Getting a little behind the scenes action of the deep conversations that Andy and I have. Andy, what underwear are you up on today? Don't answer. That was a joke. Don't answer it.
I'm getting over a kind of a head cold. It's traveling south, so it's kind of it's into my
too much green room.
Green phlegm room. No, it was a head cold this weekend, just sinus pressure and a sore throat, and now it's kind of getting into my chest, but my sinus pressure is gone and my sore throat is better. It's just like I got a little cough now, and I mean I feel okay. It's just I sound like I've been smoking unfiltered Camels my whole life and singing with Janis Joplin, you know what I mean?
Can you imagine if you were that cool?
Joe Cool. I had a great grandpa that smoked unfiltered Camels from the time he was about 15 to the time he died when he was about 87.
He was 17.
When he was 87. No joke.
See?
I mean,
See?
he lived forever, and he
It's the
smoked.
filters that'll get you.
He smoked a lot of unfiltered cigarettes. But I will say that he did pass from emphysema and lung complications, so it did finally get him. But he did live to be a ripe old age.
Yeah.
Strangely.
I had the opposite. Grandma died in her 70s. She's probably healthy as a horse, but she chain smoked. But I'll tell you what. Okay, this is a 80s kid, like you young kids. A lot of states, most states now. I think it's all. If I'm wrong, fine.
Is this back when I was a kid? We never wore seatbelts, kind of story.
Well, it's sort of, but like now you can't smoke in restaurants and all that, which was totally a thing when we were little, right? That was the thing. Smoking section, non-smoking section. Because
they had a smoking section on airplanes.
Yeah, it never crosses over that line, the invisible line, so that the non-smoking section just. I mean, yeah. But the grandma most even namesake.
Okay, the matriarch.
She'd fire up a cigarette at 5 a.m. I'd be sleeping on the couch, right? Because whatever punishment I had, my parents wanted to go out that night. I had to sleep at my grandparents' house as a young kid. They were terrifying to me. And but I will say there's a nostalgia in that smell. Like I don't smoke cigarettes, but I like the smell because to me it was almost comfort. Because inevitably when I woke up. And she talked like this, right? She talked like one of the Simpsons.
Josh.
She did. She's like, "Good morning," and she's like, "Do you want some cereal?" And that was always like grape nuts.
Exactly.
Regular.
I lost my first tooth in grape nuts at my aunt's house.
It was always grape nuts, which grape nuts weren't ever made to be a cereal. They just bury themselves in the bottom of the milk, and then you just dump 7 tablespoons of sugar on top, and you just pray that you don't bust a tooth on your way through. But yeah. Oh, Andy, we're close. We got to go. But anyway,
I know we know we're live, Albert. Yeah,
we're in the green room. We're in the green room. This is just we decided to hit live because we're actually earlier than we usually are. So thank you for letting us know. We've done a check-in a couple times here, but this is just green room talk. We talk about our families and smoking. Our grandpa.
So Josh, my grandpa Lemire was a longtime cigar smoker. And I'm not a smoker, but I will have a cigar maybe 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
It's usually golfing or something like that. But
yeah, same. You took me to my last cigar experience, which was
that's right, which was fun.
It's the last time I smoked one.
Maybe me too. No, I've had one since. But you talking about the smell, it's like you're right. The smell is I couldn't make it as a smoker, but the cigar smell is very.
I can only put the term
I love it.
Comforting. Yeah, I can only put the term comforting on it because it's not healthy. It's not like pleasant. It's comforting because it just fills me with like memories. So I like that. And my kids hate it. They're like, "Oh my God, someone's smoking," which is good for them. It's good for them. Yes. But I'll smell it and I'll be like, "Yeah, it's not."
I'll take a deep breath. Well, and even to that extent too, he was a longtime cigar smoker, but on occasion he would smoke a pipe, and pipe tobacco smells wonderful. In fact, I have a candle in my house right now called Sweet Tobacco. And
shit, Andy, we're late. We need to start.
Oh,
classic Call of Chronicles. Oh man, we're always a couple minutes late.
All right, enough cigar talk.
Minutes early. All right, let's Andy, are you ready? You got your speech down? Good.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so okay, we're gonna get this start up. Okay, tell me when you're ready to go live.
We're ready when you are, brother.
All right, here we go. I'm hitting live. Just kidding, guys. We know we're live. We're just playing it up here. Hitting live in 3, 2.
On today's episode of the Holo Chronicles podcast, we have a bit of a quandary with the bride of Peter Mayhew and some old attic finds of theirs. What's going on with Hasbro and Disney? And who would have thought we'd ever get to a place where we'd see Boba Fett as a peg warmer? Josh, hit it.
All right, welcome into the Hall of Chronicles. Here we are. We're
Live,
and we're mostly on time.
mostly. Oh, I just about took everything down there.
All
Welcome to the chat tonight, those who are following us live, and good day to you who are catching us on the rewind. We got
good day, man.
I don't know how long this is going to go tonight, but we've got 3 very rich topics to cover. But Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Great stuff. Good day. Decent day. Glad to be here with you. I know you're on the mend right now. You're on the back end of a crummy cold.
Yeah,
that's
why we're in different places today.
Yeah. Out of respect for the health of my family, which is better than I would have done. So good for you.
Well, anytime I can record with my fake Yoda lamp in the background is
hell yeah, is
an opportunity not wasted. Froda. What do we
it's interesting though. You and I have, I think we're at a maximum of less than 5 podcasts not in the same room. I know even through COVID, maybe that's inaccurate because through COVID, I think we did a few, but even then we kind of pressed the envelope. I'd like send the family away. Remember when it was so scary and you'd come sneaking in the house. You wouldn't touch anything. We'd spray everything down when you left. That was literally when we were washing groceries, right? So but we were like, it sucks in different rooms. And you'd come creeping in and we do the pod. I'd wipe the microphone down when you were done. And despite your best efforts, I'm still alive. So
here we are.
But it is weird to be remote. I'm used to having you right across the way, my friend. And instead you are right across the way.
We're like 3 miles apart. 3 miles away. All right, Josh. The first thing on the to-do list. There was a bit of it had the potential of being a kerfuffle. A little bit of a dust up, perhaps. Mm-hmm. When the residents of a former house that Peter Mayhew and his wife, Peter Mayhew, the character that played Chewbacca in Star Wars, the 7-foot tall man, the people that had lived in a house that he had previously lived in came across a box of items of Mr. Mayhew's that had some Star Wars connectivity to them. It was some paperwork, some call sheets, and nothing wild and crazy kind of items.
No revelation stuff, but yeah,
right. But just
action in there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but there were some things that had Star Wars and Peter Mayhew on them. It was mostly paperwork kind of items.
Sure.
And they found them in an attic, and they were going to auction them off at a auction house.
By they, you mean the people that lived in that house, right?
Yeah, the husband and wife that lived there, and they were delighted to find this box that had been in the attic, for who knows how long, and Mrs. Mayhew, who still is with us, Peter is no longer, but Mrs. Mayhew, through the Peter Mayhew Foundation, made a couple posts saying that she was heartbroken that some of her husband's belongings were being sold, and so
kind of a lament. And you sent me a text. I mean, I know that went across Twitter, as I think Mrs. Mayhew intended to get the support of, I don't know, probably guys in our demographic, right?
Yeah,
collectors, etc.
Yeah,
you actually sent a text and said, "I don't know how I feel about this." And so explain that a little bit.
Well, this is, I'm just giving you the information as I originally saw it.
Sure.
I dug a little deeper, found out a little bit more, and that actually caused me to kind of feel conflicted about how it should proceed, as if I was in charge. But on the one hand, like, I can totally see how the owners of the home were like, hey, this was in our attic. Who knows how long it had been here? And they came across this kind of a cool thing. Like
Sure.
anybody who finds cool things, they find them in an attic, they find them in an old desk drawer or an estate sale or something like that. You come across it honestly.
It's a collector's dream, especially
Yeah.
at Mayhew.
I mean, like, if you or I were to find something like that, we'd be over the moon about it.
Totally.
And maybe they could use a few bucks too. I mean, I'm presuming, or maybe they just thought they could get a few dollars worth because it had Peter Mayhew's name on it and Star Wars. And so I can totally see on their side of it, like, how this would be kind of a fun, exciting opportunity. And then I could also see from Mrs. Mayhew, who, Peter has only passed in the last couple years, maybe 3 years now, but she'd be like, oh, well, those were his things, and it would be nice to have them back, even though it's just paperwork items. It's not like there were photographs or anything like that, but just to know that it was her husband's at one time, and now they're just being put up for auction. I could definitely see her side of it as well.
I think that's the quandary, is that you can see and support, like, if this was a debate class, it wouldn't be morally difficult to support either side, right? Like,
Yeah.
And my knee-jerk response to you was, when I hear you say I'm conflicted, I'm like, okay, well, then that means he's not, like, straight up on Mrs. Mayhew's side. So let me just put out that point. But I did it in the sense of, like, you could put up an argument on the other side, which you just did. Like, you're a collector, you're in your attic, you bought this house. How many years have they been out of that house? 15, 20?
Well,
25, I think you said.
they had the Mayhews had lived in that house in 25 years.
Right. So, I mean, at what point is a statute of limitations where,
Exactly.
where it is like we have here, Scuba putting finders keepers up there. I get it. I get it. But I said my question to you would be, if it were old love letters, if it were old pictures of her husband from the war, and it had zero celebrity connected, zero tie to anything of value, would you even hesitate to give it back? You wouldn't. You'd just be like, oh my gosh. You'd actually go on a quest to find a family member connected to that nostalgia so that you could return it to them.
Sure.
However, because it carries the label of Star Wars, Mayhew, Chewbacca, whatever you want, then it becomes valuable, right? And so at that point, you have a moral quandary of, what is the cost of this memory? And I think Mrs. Mayhew, I may be getting ahead of your topic here, but I think Mrs. Mayhew played on that pretty well.
Well, there's a few things to consider here. The first, that I think that if it wasn't Peter Mayhew and Star Wars, this is a non-issue. It's 25 years had passed. And when you move out of a house, like, you assume there's been an opportunity to move all of the items that you care about out. Now, if you accidentally leave something behind or intentionally leave something behind, it becomes fair game. Almost immediately, I would think.
But didn't Mrs. Mayhew play it up pretty well about the?
Oh, she did. She did.
Peter's knees, and he couldn't even get into the attic. And really, to be quite frank, at the time,
oh, I believe that 100%.
I would even say 25 years ago, probably I could say, you knew that was valuable on some regard. But at the time, it would be like, what is the value? And I think the value is greater now, obviously, with his passing. But
so then here's another point to consider. Like, the people at the auction house did not consider any of the items to be high dollar items. It's paperwork. It's business papers, just that have his name on it.
It's not his costume. It's not his.
No. It's not like
or something.
Yeah. It's not. There are no props. It's nothing like that. And so,
caster. Sorry, not plaster.
So, I can I can absolutely sympathize with the couple, with the finders keepers, and like, who would have thought that 25 years later that Mrs. Mayhew would be so like, I would really appreciate to have those things back, because you would think that if they were of value to her, then when they moved out because of Peter's ailing, physical state, because he couldn't get around very well the last, probably 10, 15 years that he was around because of his giganticism.
Yeah.
He was like 7'4" when he passed away. And, so I totally believe her when she said, like, Peter couldn't get into the attic. It was just too hard on him. And I
Sure.
believe that. And it was like, but was it too hard on her? Could they not just ask somebody to go up there and
Well,
grab? I mean, were there other things in the attic that they did grab, but they just didn't grab that? So anyway, the story has a happy ending.
it does.
The auction house gave it back to Mrs. Mayhew. And there's good PR for the couple because now they're not selling off the remains of a
Which maybe for little
beloved
I
character.
mean, would you rather be a pariah for $5,000 or $10,000 or pounds or whatever, or would you rather be somebody that is like, yeah, let's make sure this goes to the Mayhew? I think that's what I ultimately said to you was like, before we knew that the auction house gave it back, as you and I just in private, like the green room before our show today. Well, I was just like, well, what would be cool is if they said, like, no matter what, we're going to donate X amount of proceeds to the Mayhew Foundation, like so. But do you think if we wanted to get, I don't want to get, I don't think it's particularly nasty, but do you think that Mrs. Mayhew was contemplating the value that it could possibly be? And a little like, hey, that's mine. If it's worth $50,000, that's ours. Or worth
I mean,
$500, it's yours. I don't know.
That's what we don't know. I mean, it was because we're talking about matters of the heart. So it's like, was she more motivated to get those things back because of the perceived value, or because of the sentimentality of it?
And both. I think you couldn't allow her to, like there was no way if she came on either side of that you would falter. She owns both rightfully. She owns the perceived value and she owns the value of the heart. She owns both. So
yeah. Well, yeah.
The auction house looks like the auction house did right by Mrs. Mayhew, which I agree with. I just agree with. I don't know.
Well, it's the only outcome where everybody saves face, right?
Yep. Somebody lost though. And that treasure hunter in the attic of the home they bought lost. But did they lose? Or did they gain?
Maybe they'll
serious galactic karma.
Yeah, maybe they'll get to meet Mrs. Mayhew and hand them to her. You know what I mean?
Well, cool. Like I said, I think the ultimate result would have been any form of donation to the foundation, or what ultimately happened, a complete donation to Mrs. Mayhew, and then she may do whatever she likes, which I think is accurate and correct.
Well, I think the lesson that I've learned in all this, that if you find something awesome, you use a pseudonym to you just you don't make a big deal.
Wait a little bit longer.
Yeah. That's dark.
No, I won't detail that out, but you know what I mean. Just wait a few more years.
Yeah, just hang on to it. It's not. There's no rush.
But I do think, like, ultimately, especially in our community where we find, actors and icons like Peter Mayhew to be revered in a very high regard, you almost want that to go to a place where you can view it and see it. And I hope that Mrs. Mayhew can do both. I hope that it can support her foundation, or even support her. I mean, for God's sakes, it's fine. It's hers. It's her husband's. But I also hope that we can enjoy it in some capacity.
Yeah, I'd be,
and you and I walked through. We walked through. What was that? Steve's stuff. And
Sand Sweets. Yeah,
Sand Sweets. I was going with something else. Sand Sweets stuff, and it was like, well, it wasn't completely amazing. It was still really cool to kind of walk through and just see, some actual.
Yeah, and not every item that was on display was like thousands of dollars, you know.
Right. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
even something I think monetary value is only relative to, I don't know, scarcity, but there's also some really intrinsic value in being able to see something, touch something, you know, be
Right.
near something that holds so much history. And I hope that's what Mayhew's ultimately with those items that
Well,
Mrs. Mayhew got bring us.
speaking of items that have a lot of intrinsic value to them, what's up, Muzza? He got our surprise package, Josh.
Hey, my advice to you is put those directly in your attic
Just
and
forget about
then
them
claim them back when some idiot tries to sell them online, at an auction house
for 50 cents.
50 cents.
Well, I'm glad you got them, buddy, and thanks for playing along with us there.
Yeah, that was fun. We did warn you that
it
wasn't going to be a top prize, but it was a prize.
And then G's Force, isn't that Andy's friend? Yeah, Steve Sansweet's my friend.
Yeah.
My friend Steve.
Old Steve.
My friend Steve. Okay. Next, Josh.
It's a good question. Do you know the answer to this? Shabby just posed one. Did they get anything? I mean, obviously, if the auction house is just a broker, so they don't control the items.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
not that I'm aware of.
Must have decided to release these, which I don't think the couple's getting enough press. So maybe we'll do it here, even if we're wrong. Like, congratulations to you, couple. Very nice of you to do that. I don't know how the auction house could release it unless they had some kind of law that says, you know, like a pawn shop, like you're selling stolen goods, you know, we have to return these to the rightful owners. But I don't want to think that's the case. So without knowing better, I would just say congratulations to that couple if they release those of their own free will to the Mayhews or Mrs. Mayhew and perhaps that foundation. I hope.
Yeah, because I would think, like, from a legal standpoint, that's their property.
Sure.
So if they wanted to,
I think so
if they really wanted to be, you know, sticky about it, I don't think Mrs. Mayhew really has a leg to stand on. But like I said, the story has a happy ending. Everybody gets good press out of this. And
isn't that what sucks about things? If it had a negative ending, if this was still a battle, we'd just be gnashing our teeth and debating about it. But instead, it was a happy ending, so it's kind of a fleeting, like, oh, that was a good thing.
Yeah,
let's harbor that a little bit and say, hey, congratulations to that auction house and that couple and Mrs. Mayhew for just a really, really cool Star Wars-esque hopeful outcome. Thank you. That was cool, and we hope to see those things on display somewhere, or we hope that they benefit a greater cause than an attic.
Yeah, there was a 24-hour period where it was like, oh, what's going to happen? You know, how should this play out? And it played out. So everybody's happy. I wanted to bring it up because we find stuff all the time. You know, whether it be Star Wars collection items, you know, that kids are selling off because their father passed away, and you know, things like that have sentimental value. And you know, I don't know, it seemed relevant to what we do, and how would you respond, how would I respond? You know, I think
we agreed.
I think this has a different ending if it was a very high value item.
Yeah,
right? If it was a Wookiee suit, you know.
If it's his tattered, moth-eaten suit, we're in court. Yeah,
I think we would sympathize with Mrs. Mayhew, but we would understand if the couple wanted to move forward. So, anyway, I think we've spent enough time on that. Josh, I saw something a few weeks ago in our own Target. Our own Target, just down the road, that I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe. I never thought I'd ever see it, and I took a picture of it, and I'm gonna post it up here right now, and I want to discuss. I saw Boba Fett peg warming at Target.
How many deep were we there? 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Wow. And those are all Fetts?
Those are all the same one. And I want to tell you that a week later I went back and nothing had changed. So those Bobas had been sitting there for at least a week, and in my mind, that's unheard of.
And those are 6-inch figures, or
those are Black Series 6-inch figures, and this was a while ago, and this is where I kind of got the idea of our thumbnail tonight with the Boba Fett-igue, that will also lead into our third topic of conversation. But it's incredible to me that so in order for this to happen, one of two things has to be true. The first is that this is not a popular figure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case. Boba Fett is maybe the most popular figure in Star Wars, especially if you consider the Mandalorian spin-offs, and those are a direct line from him being so popular.
And those were the only figures. Is that what you're saying of that style?
Yeah, those are the only Black Series figures in our Target at the time. The other thing that could be true is that if it's not a popular figure, if it's not an unpopular figure, sorry about that, then either consumers are just tired of it, or the price point's wrong, or people aren't collecting Black Series like they were, a couple years ago. And so
I think it's 2 of 3.
Share.
And those two will beget the third, to be honest with you. I think Fett-igue is real. I think the price point is wrong. I don't see how you can take a mold that you have used at least for the last 10 years, modified maybe, upgraded maybe, a card back that costs you nothing to design because it's been designed and all you're doing is copying, vintage. And then you put it out there for $35. If we're talking about a $2 to $3 cost, I'd be surprised. Could be less, even delivered. And now we're charging $35 because we're, and then that begets the third one, which is like, now people are tired of that figure. And by that, I mean, they're tired of every figure at $35. I mean, it's a toy. It's a toy. $35 is what we used to pay for 2 of these items ish, pretty close. So, or really close. I mean, we're paying what, $13, $14 for these. So I don't know. And I see a Boba Fett now. I mean, Boba Fett's mystique was peeled back with the Book of Boba Fett, at least for hardcore collectors, vintage collectors. We had some questions answered, like it or not, they were answered. And now it's just like, now hope is gone. Hope is gone. It's been replaced with canon, in fact. And now we just know, oh, damn it, he became a Vespa gangster. But
so the comments in the chat are all correct. I mean, in Canada, it's a $55 figure. In Australia, it's a $65 figure. 30. We complain 35 in the States, but it's higher elsewhere. Sure. And I know, like Gilster and Shabby and Papa Gord, they collect Black Series figures, and they're passing on them, because.
But how many iterations of this figure do they have?
Well, Josh, that's a fantastic question that you bring up, because it is the same. It's essentially the same mold, but repainted. They threw a few now jetpack.
It's a much better mold. I would like to know the details on that, because I haven't seen this personally.
Yeah. But Shabby made the point too. It's like, well, we've gotten quite a few Black Series Boba Fett's, and they're essentially not very different from each other. Now, again, Albert, I would love to hear what makes this one a little bit better, other than the flames coming out of the jetpack. But you've got your
that's a difference.
Empire Strikes Back version. You've got your Return of the Jedi Blue Sky version, and whenever you get one in the Black Series, you especially with Boba Fett, because they're popular, you'll get one in the Vintage Collection as well. And you've got your prototypes, you've got your In Disguise, you've got now with the Book of Boba Fett, the unmasked one, where he's got the tunic,
Mandalorian Boba Fett with the
right.
color.
So we have gotten a pretty steady dose of Boba Fett, along with the Black Series Empire Strikes Back helmet, the Book of Boba Fett repainted helmet, and I believe we're getting a Return of the Jedi helmet this year for the 40th anniversary for that. So then I got to thinking, Josh, do you know how many unique Boba Fett figures have been made since 1980 or 79? There's been 76.
Wow.
And that's
one more, and we're at the golden year. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been 76. And so, in 40 years, 76, that's, 3 a year. That's not how it's been, because there was a lot of years where it was just the one. And then in the 90s, they made a Power of the Force. They made a Shadows of the Empire version and Power of the Force 2. Anyway, but then it's built. And now, like you said, we've gotten to a saturation point, I feel like, where we've gotten so much Boba Fett and so many people love Boba Fett that we've kind of hit the high water mark, and that we should probably pull back a little bit, or we're going to see more Bobas hanging on the pegs, which is totally bizarre to me, because that's never been the case.
Well, remember when we had One Up Boba? We made this joke 5 years ago, just from cons, where you have like all the iterations of Boba, which I find fascinating, right? Like you take any Boba Fett armor and paint and modify it with additions and different greeblies or whatever, and it's super cool. Like there's nothing like a Boba Fett, aka Mandalorian helmet, to make any costume. It doesn't matter your size, your weight, your height. You can look awesome in a Boba Fett, cosplay. Yeah. However, that I don't know. I mean, I love to see him. We were at Star Wars Celebration, and didn't they have like this Boba Fett, or I guess for better term, it would be a Mandalorian, photo shoot, where there's hundreds of these well-made costumes. But I would say that if you were to go and find a true Boba Fett costume, they would be scarcer than the one-up Boba Fett costumes. Like, it would be hard to find just a straight-up OG Boba Fett instead of a Boba Fett, not a Mandalorian, a Boba Fett modified with different color schemes, and which are also very awesome. Like, they take Boba Fett and cross-platform with G.I. Joe and Transformers and all this, cool stuff. It's awesome. But that's what Boba Fett brought, was this very, I don't know, medieval armor type of, Mandalorian. He's the first Mandalorian we see on, or on.
So as popular as Boba Fett is, he does not have the record for the most iterations of a action figure.
Would that be Grogu?
Quickly climbing up that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
No, there are two other characters that have actually quite a few more versions of their action figures than Boba Fett at 76. Can you guess who those two might be?
Let's go with Vader.
Vader number one. Vader number one.
Storm/clone troopers, just to keep it down.
Well, I think a stormtrooper and a clone trooper and
they are different. I get it.
They would be considered different.
They would, and then you're like, is it a snow trooper? Is it a scout trooper? I mean, I guess I could just go with trooper, but that sounds like maybe that's not specific enough. So Luke is number one, or Vader's number one. I go Luke. Luke is in there.
Yeah, Luke is the other one. So Vader and Luke. So here was the deal. I looked up, the same place that I looked up how many. I mean, this is Googleable. Where I found that there were 76 versions of Boba Fett, I looked up how many Luke Skywalkers there had been since 1977, and there was like 120 something.
Yeah.
So quite a big jump. And then when I looked up Vader, there was even more.
Sure.
So, which is great because those
that makes
two,
sense. That's the main
it makes perfect sense. Yeah,
so.
Exactly. But if you thought that we might be getting oversaturated with Fetts, what does that say about Luke and Vader? Are we getting there with them?
I don't feel that way with Luke and Vader because I think they just kind of fly in, and maybe it's because, let me see if I can articulate this. Maybe it's because Boba Fett held enough cool mystique prior to his, I guess it's not an origin story, his final story or whatever, his continued story, that it was cool. And maybe even because we only got one Boba Fett in the original, vintage figures, right? We got one. We didn't get we got
one Vader.
Huh?
Only got one Vader.
We had 2 Vaders. We had a Jedi Vader. The Vader, it was just a redo.
It was the same Vader,
sure,
just on a different card.
Excuse me. So anyway,
but Luke, there were 5 different Lukes.
Yeah, there's all these different Lukes, right? Like he's the main characters, which is, it would be hard to argue that Luke isn't the main character in the original trilogy if you were just looking at it without, from a layman's eyes, like you watch the first 3 movies of the, series, the original 3 movies, you'd be like, yeah, it's Luke. Luke's the main character, and Vader's the main antagonist, right? He's the main bad guy. And then you got Han Solo and Leia and Chewbacca and
right, and they're cool, and R2,
yeah, just go down the line there. But so you would expect to see, X-wing Luke and Farm Boy Luke and Hoth Luke and Jedi Luke and Jedi Knight Luke or whatever. So I get that.
Yeah. Well, one of the recently this last week at the Hasbro, the Black Series con exclusive for Celebration is a Darth Vader figure, and it's just a Darth Vader with like red splattered paint to kind of match with the Revenge of the Jedi poster, that kind of red and black theme. And there are people that are like, oh, that looks cool, and then other people are like, another Vader, we got black and red Vader, we got Return of the Jedi Vader. I mean, just like, I don't know. Some of the same things I've been hearing about and thinking about Boba Fett, I'm hearing with Vader now too. And it's like, well, how much longer, and this gets into point number 3, Josh, like how much can we keep coming out with the same figures before people just get tired of it? And it's like, you know what? I've got 100 different Vaders. That's enough, or it seems like Star Wars has to pull up the old stuff to keep everybody connected. But by doing that, we're getting a lot of original trilogy stuff that's just like, and maybe that's because I don't know. These are questions that I don't have answers to, but it's like, how much repacking with different cards can you do of a figure? How much of the same mold with different paint applications can you do before there's just too many? It's enough, because I feel like we're getting close.
So let's ask another question. Are we the demographic they care about? Which is an interesting question, because we're the demographic that buys their stuff, right?
Yeah.
But is it the fact that you may catch that passing grandma or grandpa or mom or dad that's looking for that present for the niece or nephew or the kid or the grandkid, and it's like, oh, Boba Fett, I've seen that guy before. My kid said he liked that guy. He dressed up for him for Halloween 2 years ago. My grandkid, whatever. And so you're just catching. Whereas us, we're like, when's the next one? When's the next one? We're buying every one that comes out. So this could lead in again to like, is Hasbro's strategy really, is it on point, or do they not have a clue? Or do they just think like, well, or do they just look at numbers, which is, by the way, part of business. Like every time we put a Boba Fett out, I don't care how many you put out, he keeps selling. We're going to keep putting Boba Fett out until the numbers drop below X. and now it might be X. And in the meantime, you've totally disenfranchised your main buyers, or at least your stable buyers that are always out there. But you're still hoping that grandma and grandpa, or mom and dad, or aunt and uncle walk by and grab that familiar figure because he's very, very familiar. We've got multiple shows with him. We've got a long history with the original trilogy. And same with Vader, same with Luke, same with far more with those guys than with same with R2D2. I mean, R2, I can't believe R2 didn't make the list.
There's a lot of R2s, but not more than.
But R2's come in so many iterations. So I mean, they've made so many little remote control robots out of him, and
they all have, though. I mean, it's not like.
So my overall point, though, is like, do they care what we think, given the numbers, based on what the person that isn't completely immersed in this topic thinks? I don't know.
Well, let me segue to point number 3 then, because
3.5, they're 3.1.
2B, 2A and 2B. So the action figure grader, John, who I think is a wonderful follow on YouTube if you're into buying and selling vintage and modern figures, comics, and Star Wars sports cards. He had a video in the last week that says, is this the downward spiral of Star Wars? And he points out some things and makes some presumptions, right? Because that's all any of us can really do. But the points are a little glaring. And then I had a conversation this morning with a different John, Super Awesome Geek Show John, about some news that he got, because he works for Lego, about some Hasbro stuff. And so let me give you a few bulleted points here, Josh, that I made on my notes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I made some notes.
Disney
is cutting 7,000 jobs, which isn't all Star Wars based, but Disney as a umbrella, they're cutting 7,000 jobs. They're cutting $5.5 billion in costs, which $3 billion of that is going to be in new content from Disney Plus.
I thought it would just be all ride operators at their parks. Yeah, nothing else. Use your app to start the ride.
And that does not include ESPN, which is also not doing great. They're losing subscriptions on Disney Plus because of lack of popular content, new content coming out. And they're losing subscriptions to other competitive streaming services as well. So you're seeing on the Disney side of it in the future. Now they've got some things in the can already that are underway and that will finish, like Mando season 3, which is next month, and Ahsoka and some other things. But after that, it looks like we're going to probably get into a period of some real thin new content coming out. Not a lot. The Hasbro side of it, and I'll have to pull up my conversation with John from this morning. And I did send you a picture of the thing that kind of kicked us off here, but
sure.
It was interesting because.
Well, that had primarily to do with.
Here it is. It says, wow, just got word through Lego Corporate that Hasbro has fired all of their store reps and store level merchandising people. They will no longer have any people working with stores like Target and Walmart and such.
I said, here's why that doesn't bother me. Because what the frick were those people doing until now? Nothing.
So maybe
that to me is a great cost cut, because it's not like there's any valid, tangible effort that we've seen out there that has shown that they are promoting their product, and they're putting it front and center, and they're stacking the pegs, and you're facing the pegs, and they're putting them on end caps. Nothing. So if those people are just rolling through for Hasbro, I mean, now of course we could probably assume that their only job, their job wasn't only to promote Star Wars Hasbro products, but I don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate. It's like, who cares?
No, that's a valid point, Josh. And you working in retail for so many years, you have a take on this that I probably don't. So I asked him, I said, that sounds crazy. How do you think that will affect us as consumers? And he says, probably less sales. The stores don't put stuff where it should go, and a representative or merchandiser works with the managers to get space. With no one fighting for space, the stores just won't give it to them freely.
Andy, how many times have we shown up to a Target and they are pulling the stock, which should have been pegged that morning per the release date, per the May the fourth be with you.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, we haven't gotten to it yet. That to me just says that whatever representative that was supposed to be on hand, especially for a May the 4th, like let's just say, like on any level, if you were some sort of representative for a Hasbro product and it was May the 4th or Avengers Tuesday or whatever the frick it is,
yeah,
your job would be to go to those locations. I don't care how remote. Now, maybe the issue we have is in a rural area with only like a 60 or 70,000 population. We're not getting that attention. Maybe they're hitting the Portlands or the Seattles or the Charlottes or whatever. Pick your cities. But even then, we have never shown up. We have more times than we haven't opened the literal shipping boxes with the employee.
Yeah.
And not with some representative that was there at 5 a.m. making sure shit was going down. I think that this is a great cost savings. I don't think it's going to change anything about our pegs. I think that our pegs have been the way they are with a bunch of lackadaisical merchandisers, period.
Okay.
So whether you want to blame the stores or blame Hasbro's representatives, it doesn't matter. There's been nothing done. You walk in, there's nothing done. It's terrible, with the exception of maybe an Avengers release. Avengers, whatever, a Marvel release where I've seen some serious end caps going on, but I think that has more to do with maybe the people that work at Walmart or Target that are excited about that product. I don't think it has anything to do with
maybe, Josh, and some of it too is like, this is a whole nother can of worms, but like we've talked about this many times, like when things are coming out, it's 6 months after it should have, right? Like to get peak sales. Anyway, John goes on to say it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy thing, because sales will go down even more, and eventually Hasbro will say it isn't profitable to be at retail, but won't be profitable because no one is there to give them the space, and it will be their own fault. Then he goes on and says, I predict Disney will pull the Star Wars and Marvel license, because if Hasbro moves to direct sales only, Disney won't be happy. They will want a presence in the toy aisle, especially at Walmart. He said, so eventually Disney won't even allow Hasbro to keep those licenses as they are now. Maybe a new online license will be granted, but there will be toys in Walmart. So maybe the retail license will go to whomever stays in the toy aisles at Walmart, Mattel, Spin Master, McFarlane, or maybe Disney will make their own toys for Walmart and deal directly. I said, that's crazy that Disney doesn't have a say in how Hasbro does this. Maybe they do, but it sounds like Disney could eventually pull the license from Hasbro. That'd be a few steps down the road from now, but seems like it's on the table. And he says, exactly. I think it's a downward spiral for Hasbro for the next 5 to 10 years as this changes. They seem to have screwed up big time. Said Lego Corporate said Hasbro doesn't look good on paper for future profits. They don't want to see them fall like the toy competition, but their breakdown in the meeting that I just had said it did not look good at all. I said, maybe at this, this is obviously all speculation, but it seems like they've dug themselves a hole that they're going to really have to do some cutting and some reflection to see how they will get out. So then I asked, and I apologize, I'm just reading this here. I said, how much do you think this is from post-COVID supply chain rippling effect versus just being poorly managed? And John says, it's poorly managed. If it were COVID related, then other toy companies would have the same pinch, and Mattel and Lego, they're not pulling reps and merchandisers. In fact, both Mattel and Lego are hiring more reps. Spin Master reps are coming along also. They're hiring more too. And I said, well, that's not good for Hasbro and Disney stock. He's like, well, Disney stock's pretty solid, but I don't know if I'd be keeping my Hasbro stock. Unless it looks like there could be a buyout and Hasbro sells itself to Disney, because a sale could be what the company higher ups want. Who makes out when they have a big sale? The CEOs and top brass. They make millions off of a big sale. The employees get screwed along the way, and consumers fuss and squabble about higher ups, and they don't take care of the lower life forms like us. So Hasbro could be setting up for a sale. Sell the company to Disney or someone else, Amazon or Google, who knows?
Let me ask a question. I know you're...
Go for it. No, that's basically it.
Yeah. Let me ask a question, and maybe the chat can help here. What toy manufacturer is killing it? Like, what toy manufacturer is absolutely doing it right? So we have one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world in Hasbro. You've got Mattel. You've got, Funko, who I would put up there as being pretty successful.
Yeah.
What toy manufacturer is absolutely on the cutting edge of dealing with the current retail environment? That means a good mix of online, a good mix of brick and mortar, a good mix of direct, whatever it is, how they're doing that. So the underlying question may not have to do with Hasbro. It may have to do with what is the viability of action figures or toys themselves. Is that something that the up and coming generations, and I don't know this answer, I'm just asking for real, is that something that the up and coming generations even give a damn about? Or is it all now app based, video game based? It's all on your phone. Your entertainment is not coming from imagination in the form of physical play. It's coming from imagination in the form of digital play. So that may be a question we all have to ask. We may be looking at physical toys, action figures on a decline, and a decline that may not ever go away. Like they'll never disappear, but they might just have their own little niche that just supplies a lesser amount. Look, when you and I were kids, we had no access to where my mind could be completely occupied for most of the day with an iPad. My kids have had that since... I mean, I got a room full of toys that aren't mine. I have more toys that are mine, but I have a room full of toys that aren't mine that my kids haven't touched in years. Because guess what? Their number one toy has an eye in front of it. That's it. That's what they're dealing with. A little imagination here and there, and then we'll just take videos of it with our iPhone. It's crazy.
Well, let me answer the first part, Josh. You asked what toy retailer is kicking ass.
Yeah,
Lego and McFarlane.
I agree with that.
So they're not having the same problems, and McFarlane prices were the same as Black Series when Black Series started. Black Series has increased. McFarlane hasn't. They're still $20 figures, and they're just as articulate. They come with little doodads and accessories as well. So I think, and another part of it too is that Hasbro has to pay for the Star Wars license,
right?
But they don't pay for G.I. Joe. They don't pay for, other things. And so the Star Wars license, I mean, all you have to do is look at recent, and we've talked about this, HasLab projects. Like, everything else is getting pushed through. The Star Wars is like 2 out of 4, and
premium.
for its last 2. And so, and Star Wars prices seem to keep increasing. And I mean, again, this is steps down the road. I don't know how they can keep doing what they're doing and still be profitable. And it sounds like they can't. And it's a combination of Disney. If Disney's coming out with less content, there's going to be less opportunity for new merchandise. And so if Action Figure Grader John says this in his video. I really encourage you to watch it. But he sees this as the beginning of less Star Wars on the shelves, on the screen, just in general. And not that it's going to be another like Dark Ages 1990s kind of thing where we only get comics and books, but maybe it does. I don't know. Unless, and here's the caveat to that, Iger is the big deal maker guy.
Yeah, he's back.
And so maybe they buy out another streaming service like Paramount. Maybe they change the agreement with Hasbro and the Star Wars license and give it to somebody else, buy them out and then give it to somebody else. I don't know. But Iger's the guy. If a big deal is to be made, that's why he is there. So I'll just leave that out there.
So would you, just as a quick, like this could be a one-word answer, do you think that Marvel is more viable than Star Wars within Disney? Yes or no?
Well, it's tough because you've got a 43-year history of Star Wars being an internationally known entity that on some level, you know,
Marvel
it has a high,
Marvel
it has a
comics
high
are
floor.
Star Wars, but yeah.
Star Wars has a high floor, but Marvel in the last 10 years, I think, has really come up to meet or maybe even surpass Star Wars.
They're putting more content out quicker, faster, and maybe not quality wise. I'm just saying. I mean, I watched Moon Knight, who also stars a former Star Wars actor. It was okay, but it was also readily available.
Yeah.
You watch, WandaVision and all these things, like they're just
Marvel
out. Yeah. It's not deeply in depth or deeply nostalgic or deeply whatever you want, like wrapped in secrecy. It's just like, here's content, here's content, here's content, here's content. And we live in a world right now where, I mean, you can go on Netflix and you can die on Netflix and never watch the same thing twice, good or bad. But like some of it's good. It's kind of good. It's like, that's a good episode. That was a good episode. And that doesn't even include HBO Max, Apple TV, Hulu, all these other places, even Disney Plus that are just offering, content. So at what point does Star Wars just kind of get shuffled in? A Mandalorian, I believed, and I have a really scary comment I want to put up from Albert that terrifies me individually, and I don't care about the rest of you. I have no idea, but all like Mandalorian, like we're getting, it's good content. It's really good. It captured, at least season 1 captured the minds of non-Star Wars fans and brought them in, and they wanted to watch it. And then season 2 showed them maybe there's more story than they expected. We just liked seeing the little green guy. And so I don't know how many people fell off with that. Obviously not the diehard Star Wars fans. We loved it. Great ending to season 2. Rolling into Book of Boba Fett, which basically gave us season 2.1 of Mandalorian with a little bit of Luke and Grogu. But like, is season 3 going to grab a bunch of new Star Wars people, or is it just going to be us? Yeah, we've been here the whole time, and you guys that like the green baby that now you're all tired of because again, fatigue, or grow over it. I don't know. Whatever you want to say. I don't know.
It. Yeah, what was the post you wanted?
Here's
I agree. I agree. Matt had a comment too. It said we need a theatrical Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I agree too.
I agree with that. It's just making a movie is a lot riskier in the digital era because I heard Matt Damon say this. It's like you could take a chance on a movie, on the content of a movie back in the day because you had DVD sales that would boost, that would come alongside the theatrical sales. But you don't have that anymore, and you get you get a little bit for streaming, but it's not the same. And so if you're going to make a movie, executives have to know that it's going to hit. And so that's why you're getting a lot of superhero movies.
When's the last time you were in a movie theater?
It's been a while. The Batman. I saw that in the theater.
I did not. I saw Top Gun Maverick.
Oh yeah, that too.
And the last movie I've seen pre-COVID or since COVID. So go back to 2020. Really, I hadn't seen a movie since Rise of Skywalker. I hadn't been in the theater. Then COVID hit, and then it was Maverick was my return to the theater. I think the theater's dead. I don't know why people go there. You tell me why in the chat. I don't care if you go there. But like you can buy a 70-inch TV for like $30 now. I don't know why you have to go to a theater when you can literally, watch a massive screen in your own home, and you don't have to, use your tax return to get it done. So anyway, that's a different topic. So here's a terrifying comment Albert made for me personally. When you were talking about Disney cuts.
I know.
But again, as we have Matt say, Disney needs a theatrical release. To me, this was as theatrical as Disney could get. It was a true gritty. I just thought it exited the boundaries that were within kind of that campy, fun Mandalorian. I love the Mandalorian. I'm not talking trash at all. Then Boba Fett, and it just kind of got it got fun, Clone Wars fun. But Andor to me felt as theatrical as we could get in a series that was on, a platform instead of in the theater. So I'm terrified if this is the case, this would, but they've already inked it. It's already in. I think budget wise, this is 2 years or last year's news. So they're not worrying about this budget. They're thinking about future budgets. If we don't get an Andor season 2, I'm going to hashtag revolt. So that would really piss me off. And I hope it would piss a lot of other people off, but maybe not. Maybe no one cares. But that's a good point.
Yeah. Side question here, Josh. Of the trailers that came out in the Super Bowl, which let me run through. There were 4 that kind of came out, and
Yeah.
I want you to tell me if you're gonna go see them in a theater. Okay. First one, the new Fast and the Furious movie.
Absolutely not.
Oh, absolutely not.
I haven't watched any since I think the first one. I am slow and kind of mediocre. That's what I am.
So you can't.
Slow and mild tempered.
Well, it depends. Okay. What about Air, the movie about getting Michael Jordan brand shoes and Phil Knight and Nike, featuring Ben Affleck as Phil Knight?
Like, even if I did go to the theater, that description alone makes me not want to see that.
What?
Ben Affleck as Phil Knight?
You should. Did you see it? He looks just like him. It's funny.
No. Thank you. I'll watch that in the comfort of my own home.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I'm going to the theater to watch it. I'm definitely.
But I mean, there's basketball fans. That's just not. I'm not.
No, Jordan brand shoes are huge, international.
Sure.
This is not
demographic that doesn't include me. I don't want it.
Yeah. This is a Matt Damon and Ben Affleck movie. They're both in it, and they're both.
If it's not Good Will Hunting or Good Will Hunting, I don't want to see it.
Well, I'm just saying, this is not. I don't see this as being a risky movie. I think this is going to have a lot of appeal around the world.
Sure.
Okay. What about the new Indiana Jones 5?
Yeah, I'd go to that. Now, here's the deal. I would go to that if we made a deal out of it. Like if we were like, let's all get fedoras and whips, and I have those just upstairs.
I have an Indy outfit I can cosplay.
Especially the whip.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And we get our crystal skulls. Joke. Terrible movie that was.
Well, to you and me.
Come on, it was terrible. But yeah, I think that especially with Harrison, this has got to be the send off. They got to do this one right. So who's the director for that? Is it Michael Bay? Because then I'll know it's right.
I don't know.
Kidding again. I'm full of jokes.
But okay, I didn't think I would care much about the Indy 5, but after seeing the trailer, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Now, Shabby seems to think they're going to go back and erase Indy with the dial of time or whatever.
Crystal skulls.
Well,
and the aliens.
Yeah, there's a potential here for if
they F that one up. Okay, let's admit that they F that one up. 1 through 3 of Indy, solid Indy, every single one, and then they bring him back 10, 15 years later, and they do aliens. It's like, bros, we had Egypt. I mean, I guess they were already in Egypt to in number 1, but whatever. We have the Incas. We got all this cool shit that Indy could do, and you went with aliens. We don't need that. The world is full of mysteries, and Indy can find them. So I hope that there's no aliens in this one.
I don't think there will be, but like I'm
Atlantis.
gonna watch it with intrepidation. Like I'm gonna be like, not that I think it's gonna be scary. I'm gonna watch behind my fingers, because if it ends up being bad, I'm gonna be really bummed. All right, last one, Josh.
Eleanorian's the nicest guy in the world. Crystal Skulls was pretty meh. I mean, at one point, Indy's biggest fight was with a giant anthill.
It was scary.
In Temple of Doom, he was up against a guy that ripped people's hearts out, and in the Crystal
while
Skulls,
they were
he was up
alive,
against really, really angry fire ants. It just doesn't jive. And then, like number 3 and 1, it was just Nazis, Nazis, Nazis. I mean, like how can you top behind that? Fire ants.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then the last one that I wanted to ask you about was the new Flash movie.
That looked kind of cool, and that was freaking Michael Keaton.
I know. Like
okay.
There's Ben Affleck in it.
This didn't get enough play for me, even like off the mic, because when Batman, the first Batman, Michael Keaton Batman came out,
awesome.
We had no internet. TV didn't play. Like TV would play trailers like a month before, but good luck catching them. You had to watch all the commercials. It wasn't like you were going to get some like YouTube, here's an ad.
Yeah.
It was like you caught the trailer if you were lucky. There was no, maybe at the end of a show they'd be like, stay tuned for the Batman trailer, and you would. But the only way you saw it is if you went to the movies, and it was all those pre-trailers. And I remember being in the movie, and I have no idea what movie I was watching. And when the Batman pre-trailer came out, like I lost my mind. I think I was 9, or what year did it come out? What's the original Batman?
89.
Yeah, so I was 89, was it? So I was 12 then. I lost my mind because I had just read Frank Miller's Dark Knight, which was my all-time favorite comic of all. It was just period. So Batman to me wasn't, pow, bang, boom. He was like this, he was a vigilante. He didn't give a shit. He killed people in the name of vengeance / justice, but they hadn't really crossed that line yet. They got there later on. So when Michael Keaton in the trailer is holding up that guy over the ledge, he's like, "Who are you?" And he goes, I'm Batman. That was my moment. Like I couldn't wait. I went to Taco Bell for every freaking whatever toy they had. I did all the stuff.
Prince did the soundtrack.
This is too many stories, but I don't give a shit because we're in the green room, in my opinion. I went, like, we didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid. And so when it was new clothes shopping for school, I had like $150. I spent maybe $20 on some pants and underwear and $130 on Batman shirts, like Batman this, Batman that. So my entire wardrobe, which really got me labeled as a kid, it was hard to get chicks at 12. As I showed up every day with a different iteration of a Batman shirt on, that I just recycled every week for 9 months. So anyway, Batman was it. And then I saw Keaton on Super Bowl Sunday, and like I'm in this room full of people that don't give a shit, and like I like stood up. It's like, that was Michael Keaton. I just said that out loud, and everyone looked at me like I had an issue, which I did. And that was Michael Keaton. And I will see that movie, even though it's Flash.
It's
good job, DC. Grab bat. That's what you do. You grab your player and you put him up front, and then you
Well, I mean, the movie is about the Flash, but Batman.
Damn right, Matt just got it right. Holy shit! I had British Knights like a mother. I had British Knights, BKs for life.
My most favorite shoes I think I've ever owned was a 7th grade pair of black and white BKs. Oh, they were nice.
BKs were like a staple on my feet for like 3 years. And that was the same pair, by the way, because again, no money.
Yeah. Anyway, those look great. I'll probably see all 4 of those. But the ones I'll see in the theater will be the Flash for sure. maybe the Indy.
I just want to see Michael Keaton. If DC is rebooting properly, they I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I bought that, or I watched the what's the last one they did? The Justice League, like the uncut,
the Snyder cut. Yeah,
Chris Snyder cut. Dude, I haven't ever turned off a superhero movie before. I was like, oh, I get why they edited this down, because Snyder's insane. Like he's like he had slow-mo moments within slow-mo moments that you were just like, dude, how long does it take for I know the Flash works in high speed, and so we're going to see the world in slow speed, but it was a 10-minute scene of a car slowly going over the Flash, and I was like, dude. So that's just me being old. But it is the same actor for the Flash as it was in Justice League, right?
Yeah, Ezra Miller. Yeah, Ezra Miller, and he's become a bit of a problematic person off the screen.
That's what I want to hear. Michael Keaton will straighten him up.
Well,
imagine Michael Keaton like with a toothpick.
Yeah, Michael Keaton is such a good actor. Like
he'd have a lot of hand movements,
multiplicity.
Beetlejuice, give me a break.
Beetlejuice, Batman,
the Condor, no cut, which is bullshit. They did cut, but like one camera.
Mr. Mom.
What else?
What else was he in? He was the Wasn't he in The Other Guys?
I don't know that one.
With Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, like more recently,
yeah.
He's good at being like the old commissioner now, but I like that he's back as Batman. That's the Dark Knight Returns right there. Real Dark Knight Returns. All right, we're off the rail.
We are totally off the rail.
There's Katie. Fiance.
Oh, Gung Ho. Remember, did you ever see that movie, Gung Ho?
Probably not.
That's about the auto industry. That was good.
Nope. Just Michael Keaton. Period.
Yeah, Multiplicity was great. Okay, so we have covered tonight. Well, first of all, we had about a 15-minute pre-funk in the green room.
In the green room, which is fun. I'd rather sometimes it's like not having an agenda.
Then we touched on the Peter Mayhew's widow and some long lost paperwork that was found in an attic by some people who purchased a house from them 25 years ago, and what to do about it.
And by all accounts, good on the auctioneer, good on the discoverers of that in the old house.
Yeah, so, we're good.
I don't need. I would prefer to believe that they're just pure gold-hearted people supporting a grieving widow with the memorabilia from her larger-than-life husband. Thank you.
Exactly.
That was a good story.
And it had a happy ending. Yeah, thankfully. Then we talked about Hasbro and Disney cutting a lot. They're cutting jobs, they're cutting funds, and how is that going to ripple down to the consumers potentially over the next 5 years? We can only speculate, but changes are a coming, as Bob Dylan once famously said. And then, we talked a little bit about some upcoming movies. So it's been a full plate here tonight, Josh. And I'm glad, even though we're not involved,
they've got great commentary. Thank you to everyone that showed up tonight, helping us out and saying hi. All our friends, good jokes. Not all the jokes made it on screen, but there were a few.
Yeah, you guys have been engaged. Appreciate that. Josh, in the next week, Monday, which is President's Day here in the States, we have essentially it's like a bank holiday. We have the day off. And we're going to have on a little earlier than normal on Monday. This is just in 5 days Monday, 6 days Monday. The boys from Red 5 Designs, as they wrap up their Kickstarter for the vintage action figure book that is now out and people have, and the last few are in the mail. We're going to do a little closing wrap session with them around 1:30, 2 o'clock on Monday Pacific time, which would be about 5 o'clock Eastern. And
or like 11 o'clock Hawaiian. So depending on where you're at.
I'm not sure how that works, but that'll be great. I am so looking forward to catching up with those guys to kind of like,
yeah, I want to hear their journey. Like
take a deep breath and
completely off the radar because they literally have been doing their best to get these things out as fast as possible. I think Andy, you've reached out to them no less than 3 times to be like, okay, guys, how about now? How about now? And they're like, guys, we're still packing boxes. So like, I'm super excited to hear about their journey. The things that, I don't know, I think it'd be fun, especially it'll be more entertaining to those of you that got in on the Kickstarter and beyond and got one of those amazing books in your hand to kind of hear the struggles. We've heard a little bit in our own green room with Red 5. It's fascinating. It's fascinating the amount of work that these guys put in. And then just, I mean, if you talk about hurdles, like that's a common term, like, oh, we got some hurdles to get.
There's always hurdles.
No. Like real hurdles, like over and over, and like being able to like consistently jump the next one and keep your dream as a person that wants that book on your coffee table, whatever collection, keep your dream alive. I mean, it was thousands. I think hundreds is probably accurate, and a few thousand is probably on point. So
yeah,
lots of
it's going to be a fantastic chat. I've been looking forward to this for a couple months now. When they got the books in hand and started mailing them out, like this is going to be a great conversation, and please do join us for that. Bring your questions. We'll definitely let you guys ask some questions too, especially if you're a patron of the show. We'll give you an opportunity.
We appreciate it.
And just as an aside, we probably won't show these off on Monday, but I'm getting some really cool stuff in the next week or so. So I'll just dangle that carrot out in front of you, Josh, and we'll have a good time showing my carrot.
I need my exercise, and keep your carrot to yourself. All right. Hi, Gary. Bye, Gary.
Hey, Gary. Yeah, just in time.
Okay.
But thanks for watching.
Early,
thanks
Gary.
for hitting that like button, and thank you for sharing it with your collector friends. Really appreciate that. Josh, it's been fun.
It has been fun. Stay healthy, my friend. Don't
Oh yeah, we're good. We're on the mend. I'll be back stronger than ever.
Attaboy. What should we do?
Don't forget to play with your toys.